That's the rubber sheet you're on your chair. This has got to go to something.
Henry, how are you, mate? Feeling all right? Yeah. Just some traffic.
It's terrible. It's an accident right here.
Is that right?
It's exactly there in the car on its roof. In the centre two lanes.
I thought it must be just around the knees. It is really.
Just so you know what's in it.
Oh, okay.
It is. Yeah. To see what's in it. I'm glad she took that stuff for me. You've got Dan. Let's do it. It's not we can
I think we're going to start soon. It's quarter past.
No,
You think you can fix a sleeve prolapse for me? Oh no, you can.
Can you instruct me?
Prolapse. This one's great.
Further? You pull that up.
Fold the bottom like that.
This one?
Yeah, and then fold the top over the bottom.
Like that? Halfway or all the way? All the way.
Next time.
Is that?
This one? Right, we're going to start. Some stuff.
where is the money?
Sylvia and Sonia, I think that's everyone with me somewhere or another. I end up without one. I think this one. That bike's picking you up on the street. Which is okay. Well, you haven't talked about running towards or something, no one will care. In the pocket. single shot. Should be able
Wherever you like, and find out whatever anywhere. That's good for the family. Perfectly
Just going to switch on the batteries in those ones too, because they're getting bored. Because they're just sitting. You want a second?
Hey mate, good to see you. You look sharp, mate. Good to see you.
Not looking so bad yourself.
Oh, thanks. We're literally about to start as soon as our Sandman puts fresh batteries in. Yeah,
Big week for you.
right. Yeah, be glad. All cleared, you know. Good morning, everybody. Just want to welcome you all. Thank you for coming. Collecting thoughts. Proverbs 18:24 says, "There are friends who may be harmful to one another, but then there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother." I'll get that out of the way. So we're here to remember our friend, husband, father, uncle, grandfather, companion. To use a word not quite properly established in the English language, rapscallion. Wonderful man who affected many, many, many people. I don't want to speak for very long. We've had delays, as you know, because of the accident out in the freeway. So why doesn't the music team come up and let's start in worship. And we're remembering Rod in all sorts of ways today. I think you'll learn things about him you never knew. I know I'm going to learn things about him I didn't know. Today will be a good day. He's gone. His earth suit is in a box. He's gone to glory. He's realised his hope, the one in whom he trusted. And we're here to remember him, celebrate him. And we're not going to have a hoedown out the front. We're not going to be all line dancing up here. But this is a good day. To know someone like him that we can remember as we're able to is a wonderful thing. All our lives have been stamped and affected by him. And that will continue. His young son stood in front of me today, looking up at me with those dewy, deep eyes that he has. He said he wanted to make his dad proud. And I ventured that was too late. Rod had been proud of him for a long time. Very proud. Today we are, in part at least, what it is that we are because we knew Rod. Because he's been part of our lives. So let's enjoy today. Let's laugh. And let's remember him. Okay, guys. Christ alone.
My soul is cornerstone, is solid ground, firm to fiercest drought and storm. What heights alone, what depths of peace, when things are still, when you silent seas, my comforter, my Lord and all, here in the love of Christ I stand. With Christ alone, who took on flesh, fullness of God and helpless faith, this gift of love and righteousness, scorned by the ones he made to save, till on that cross and Jesus' life, the wrath of God was satisfied. For every sin on him was laid, here in the death of Christ I live. His body lay, light of the world by darkness slain, and burst apart in glorious day. Up from the grave he rose again, and as he stands in victory, since curse is lost, his grip on me, and he is mine. Walk with the precious blood of God. Hosanna, Hosanna to the Lamb that was slain. fear and death. This is the power of Christ in me. From Lazarus died till final breath, Jesus commands my destiny. No power of hell, no scheme of man could ever come. He promised hand till he returns. Oh, cause me Lord, here in the power of Christ, I stand. Oh, Hosanna, Hosanna to the Lamb that was slain. Hosanna, Hosanna, Jesus died and rose. One more time. Hosanna, Hosanna to the Lamb that was slain. Hosanna, Hosanna, Jesus died and rose again. This is the power of Christ in me. From life's first cry to final breath, Jesus commands my destiny.
Thank you, guys. You can all be seated. So we're going to have some tributes from the family. You guys will want to come up in a gaggle or come up individually. It's up to you. You come up and say your piece and you want to hang around and finish up as a scrum, that's also good. Come on, stop.
Today I want to speak about my dad and the lessons he gave me, not in theory, but through the way he lived. When my dad met my mum, it was just mum, my sister and I. Mum was in a pretty tough position after my birth dad had abandoned us. We were all on our own. It was just the three of us. Mum met dad at the Australian College of Natural Medicine. Mum was studying homeopathy and Dad was studying Chinese medicine. They were friends and study partners for a few years before they became romantic. They married when I was in year 11 and stayed married until my mum died in 2016. From the start, Dad didn't just enter our lives, he chose our family. Dad was teaching me that family's chosen, and once you choose people, you don't walk away. He didn't have to take us on. He didn't have to step into a life that came with responsibility and history of us girls, but he did it. And he told me something I've never forgotten, that he'd never give up on me and he'd never abandon me. And the truth is, that wasn't a real easy promise to keep. I was a child, I was angry, I was in pain, and I didn't respond too well to Dad's style. Mum was the far more liberal parent, and Dad was tougher, much, much tougher. I really hated it at the time. We fought. We fought really badly. But he never walked away once. Not ever. He was teaching me what real commitment looks like. The love that stays, even when things get hard. One of Dad's strongest beliefs was that your word is your bond, and sometimes that's all you've got. That wasn't just something he said, it was how he lived, and it was the standard he held himself to, and the standard that he tried to build into all of us. And I know he meant it, because he proved it again and again, with the most important promise of all, that I'd never be abandoned again. He stayed through every season, even the really hard ones. He kept his word for the rest of his life. Dad was teaching me that integrity matters because your word is your bond, and keeping it is what makes you someone that people can trust. Dad had a painful childhood of his own. He suffered terribly with asthma. He was in and out of hospital quite a lot as a child, and I know that was really hard for him because all he wanted was to be out surfing and having fun with his mates, but instead he was often stuck in a hospital bed being treated. I think that built something into him early: toughness, resilience, and the ability to endure. Dad was teaching me that pain doesn't get the final word. You endure. You keep going. Later in life, Dad found the Lord. Sometime when I was in high school. He looked into other faiths throughout our upbringing, but this was the one that stuck. He adored the Lord, and he held on to the words of the Bible dearly, right up until he died. A few years ago, I became a Christian too, largely thanks to his influence. Dad was teaching me that faith can steady you, strengthen you, and carry you through life when things feel too heavy. During school, Dad was incredibly strict, but not because he demanded perfection. You didn't need to get an A+. You needed to try your absolute best. You could get a B, but if anything in the teacher's comments on the report card suggested that you hadn't tried 100%, well, that was a problem. Sometimes there were consequences. I missed a couple of school dances because of report cards. And I can still hear him bellowing one of his classic lines: "Sonia, you need a backbone, not a wishbone." Dad was teaching me that effort matters and character matters. You don't wish your way into a good life, you work hard for it. And even though we fought when I was younger, over the years those fights evolved. They turned into debates. A nicer way of arguing, less angry over time, less hurt, more understanding. And it wasn't until I was in my early 20s that Dad and I really started to understand each other and give each other the grace we deserve for what we'd been through. And then something magical happened. We started to have one of the best relationships ever, and we did, right up until the very end. He was a barrister, and I'm a banker, and as adults, we talk about our wins and challenges in the corporate world. Those conversations became one of the ways that we connected the most. No matter how bad things got, we never gave up on each other, and what we ended up with was unbreakable. Dad was teaching me that relationships don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You just have to refuse to give up. It was really important to Dad to help us on our way in life. He made sure all three of us girls went to beautiful private schools for high school, and he absolutely busted his gut to make sure that that could happen. And even though we didn't always have a huge amount of money growing up, Mum and Dad always made sure we had really nice things and that we had experiences too. Dad made sure we had holidays. We'd often go to Noosa for the school holidays, and we took road trips often to visit family and friends as well. One road trip I'll never forget was down to Canberra. All of us together as a family in Dad's brand new Jag. And of course, it had brand new cream leather seats. The three of us girls were in the back seat laughing hard at something, I can't even remember what, and we were eating licorice. We laughed so much that a piece of licorice actually came flying out of Sylvia's nose and landed on the brand new cream leather seats. We absolutely lost it. We were giggling and trying so hard to hide it as best we could because we knew Dad would be very upset about the licorice on the leather. But that was Dad in a nutshell. He worked hard to give us those beautiful things and beautiful memories, and he taught us to respect them too. Dad was teaching me that love isn't just what you say, it's what you do. And that's the life you build for the people that you love. Dad was also an absolute gentleman, completely old school in the very best way. He opened doors, always. Cars, doors to buildings, it didn't matter who you were. Dad believed in that kind of respect. And he'd do these small things that you don't often see anymore. If we were walking near the roadside, he'd stand outside so that we were protected from the traffic. He'd make sure women wouldn't get splashed or dirtied by the passing cars. And he was thoughtful like that. Proactive, protective, and proper. He raised strong daughters, but he also raised daughters who knew they were worth protecting. He also expressed love in the way that he provided. Dad made sure that for every birthday, especially big ones, we had something beautiful. He bought us lots of jewellery. He worked incredibly hard to be able to afford it, and sometimes he'd save for years at a time, planning ahead to make sure that that beautiful gift was ready for the special birthday. I know how lucky and privileged I am to have these precious things, pieces that will last my whole life. But Dad didn't do it to spoil us. He did it because he wanted us to know our worth.
Yes.
He wanted us to expect beautiful things in life and to expect to be treated well, particularly by men. Dad was teaching me that respect is love in action, and that I should never expect anything less than what I deserve. When we were ready to learn to drive, Dad purchased 2 old VW Beetles to do up for us to be able to use. It sounds generous, and it was, but of course there was terms and conditions. Every Saturday we had to bring the car around for an inspection. It had to be perfectly cleaned, the engine had to be attended to. It was genuinely frightening. Driving over one weekend to get my car inspected, I hadn't washed it, and I thought I'd get away with going through a car wash. I thought I was being clever. I wasn't. Dad was teaching me that freedom comes with responsibility, and pride's built through discipline. Dad also taught me to drive, and he taught me like everything mattered. He used to set up fake scenarios where he'd make me imagine that I was reverse parking between a Bentley and a Rolls Royce, over and over and over. At the time, I thought it was torture, but now I can see what he was really doing. He was building confidence into me through repetition. Dad was teaching me that confidence isn't luck, it's practice, again and again and again. Something else that stands out to me about my dad is that he had nice things, but they were always taken care of. Some of them were very old, whether they were beautiful furniture that he'd inherited or a car he'd managed to buy. He always kept everything in pristine condition. And if something broke, he didn't replace it, he fixed it. That's how my dad was. Dad was teaching me to respect what I have and to repair what matters most instead of throwing it away. Dad was also very big, go big or go home. Throughout his life, he made and lost millions of dollars. But what people sometimes misunderstood about my dad is that it wasn't just risk-taking. He was wickedly intelligent, he was sharp, and he was mostly strategic. He could see opportunities that other people couldn't. He could read situations quickly, think 3 steps ahead, and work out how to generate income even when the chips were down. And even when things didn't go his way, he didn't crumble, he rebuilt. Dad was teaching me that setbacks don't define you. You adapt, you rebuild, and you just keep going. After we lost my mum, Dad was lonely. Eventually he remarried to Madonna, and I'll be honest, it was a shock at first. I felt like I'd only just heard her name, I hadn't met her, and suddenly Dad was telling me that they were going to get married. But I was still really happy for him. I love Madonna. She's a good Christian woman, and she's been an amazing wife. I'm so grateful for her. She cared so much for my dad right up until the time he passed. Madonna already had 2 children, Amy and Daniel, and Dad loved them so much. And I think he was glad to get the chance to be a dad to people again. He was already in his 60s when he took this on. Dad was teaching me that it's never too late to begin again, and that love can expand your family and even grief. And there's one more thing that I want to say because it's something I actually didn't realise until later. In 2018, Dad's sister told me that Dad had once said his life wouldn't have been worth living if he hadn't been able to be a dad. And I think that truth was visible in everything he did. He didn't just play a role, he lived it, he chose it, and he loved it. He chose us. He chose us again and again. Dad was teaching me what it means to belong and what it means to make other people feel safe enough to belong to. At the end of this, what I feel most is how much I'm going to miss him. I love him, and I love him for the rest of my life. I wish I had more time. But Dad gave me gifts that don't end. He gave me these lessons, these standards, this faith, and this strength and I'm going to carry them with me always. So Dad, that'll do. Those will do just fine.
That's nice to know.
My dad. My dad was a remarkable person. I think everyone in this room today would have a story to share about how he's touched their lives. Some of my fondest memories were of my early childhood. Back then it was just he and I living in Sydney. Dad raised me as a single parent for many of my early years. Back then we had a boat which Dad named Sylvia's Joy. We'd spend weekends boating on Sydney Harbour, shucking oysters from the rocks, catching squid and ordering pink lemonades wherever we went. We had a magical time together. There were also trips to New Zealand I recall well, where Dad and I would go to bobbiting and horse riding. We also visited Noosa very regularly, which is where his parents lived, and we had a holiday house at the time. From what I remember of Dad back then, he lived a very stressful life, managing multiple businesses, was working as a solicitor. But that never stopped him being incredibly attentive. He'll drop me to school and pick me up every day and take me to every practice for tennis and gymnastics. I can't recall ever having to attend before or after school care. It was always there for me, even if it meant working until midnight. I didn't realise until recently that my sister Marina told me that looking after me as a single dad and wanting to have more time with me was a catalyst for him commencing study in Chinese medicine. I wish I'd acknowledged the sacrifice that he'd made for me growing up when I had the chance. Dad was an incredibly deep thinker and he loved his music. Our house when I was little was filled with the sounds of Neil Diamond, the Beatles and Elton John on repeat again and again. Music was a passion he carried throughout his life. He shared his love of music with Mum and then Madonna, both of whom are amazing musicians. When he visited Perth, he and I would enjoy going to the orchestra and concerts together. He also had a deep appreciation for art and cars, jewellery and beautiful things in general. And as Sonny mentioned, he looked after his things and taught us the importance of doing this too. Dad met Jerry in around 1994 when I was about 9. In an instant, I had 2 sisters, Sonia and Marina, and a nurturing mum to share a home with, and I thought it was the best thing in the world. Dad, I believe, was running businesses and working a lot at that time, and while studying, while Mum looked after the home duties. To me, this was a welcome relief. It meant a break from the steady diet of roll-ups, space sticks, overcooked Brussels sprouts, and chicken wings. I know Dad was doing his best at the time, and I did love the roll-ups. To this day, I still don't know anyone that had the drive that Dad did. He wanted us to have everything we ever needed, and he stopped at nothing to make that happen. And when Dad gave his word, there was no wavering. His commitment was absolute. Even through times of financial stress, he always made sure our Christmas tree was filled to the brim with presents. Whether that was good role modelling or not, I don't know, but it certainly made us all feel special. He made sure we had the best education, always went somewhere for our holidays, and had everything we needed. I'm deeply appreciative of the sacrifices, knowing that what he probably would have preferred was helping people through his work in Chinese medicine. In addition to being a brilliant barrister, Dad was also a wonderful acupuncturist who has helped me with various ailments over the years. He's treated regular patients, which I know he genuinely loved doing. The other day, I found a letter Dad had written to me about 8 years ago. At the time, I didn't take too much note, but upon reading it last week, I couldn't stop crying. The letter was written in Dad's very lawyer speak, and it detailed the story of my adoption from Fiji. At the time, in 1986, adoption laws made it near impossible for families to adopt children from overseas. Had it not been for Dad's Herculean effort and perseverance, leading to intense negotiations with various ministers and bureaucrats across government departments, my life would have looked very different. Keep in mind that Dad was just 32 years old at the time. I can't think of a single 30-year-old with the tenacity that Dad clearly had. Dad's plan worked. Within 3 months of his campaign, he and his then wife Irene went to the top of a 5-year waiting list to adopt me. I'm so grateful to you, Dad, for what you've done for me, and I honestly can't imagine where I would be without you. Dad has taught us many things during the years: hard work, sacrifice, and perseverance among them. While we all grimaced at the weekly chores and monthly car inspections, I realise now that Dad was teaching us girls important life lessons. His favourite saying was, "Sylvia, you need a backbone, not a wishbone." Dad seemed serious and strict growing up, having had a tough childhood, but he also knew how to let his hair down. He had a wicked sense of humour. I recall vividly the times he shared with my 2 aunties, Ruth and Robin, and the uproarious laughter that would fill the room. Those who know Dad can attest to the fact that he was the least PC person of all. Despite many moments of embarrassment, I thank Dad and Jerry for encouraging us to be critical thinkers and of not being afraid to go against the grain. This is the biggest blessing that my parents have bestowed upon me. I noticed Dad soften a lot when he married Madonna and became Dad to Amy and Daniel. It would have been a rude shock for him going back to parenting 2 teenagers, but having lived it once before meant that he could enjoy it more the second time. I'm grateful to Madonna and the kids for being with Dad through these latest years and the joy they've brought to his life. I'm particularly grateful to Madonna, Sonny and the kids for being with Dad in these latest tough times of hospital trips and illness. Dad was also the proudest granddad. Every time we would FaceTime Dad from Perth with my 2 kids, Hank and Peggy, his face would light up. He was always eager to hear what they were up to and delighted in their achievements. It broke his heart that he couldn't travel to see them in the last couple of years with his health. I wish the kids could have had more of Dad's influence in their lives, but I hope the moments that they shared with him will stay with them forever. The comment that Dad's friend and jeweller Matt made about Dad when he learned about his passing really touched me. He said that week the world had lost a true gentleman. The term gentleman describes Dad to a T. Even the day prior to going into ICU, when he could barely walk, assisted by a walking frame, he insisted that I go first into the lift. He opened every door and insisted that he pay for the taxi. I possibly rolled my eyes at the time, but now I see how much it meant to him to make sure his girls were looked after. He carried a deep respect for women that I think is an extremely rare quality to find these days, and he also set high expectations for our partners. The girls and I would delay bringing boyfriends home to meet Mum and Dad till we were absolutely certain about them, because of the interrogation they would receive would be intense, to say the least. Before even saying hello, Dad would stare them down with his piercing blue eyes and say, "What is your intention with my daughter?" I can look back at these moments now and smile, but at the time he felt like melting into the floor with embarrassment. It's been an absolute privilege to have been your daughter, Dad, and to be your daughter. I'm so thankful for all the memories, all the opportunities and lessons that you gave us, for instilling the faith of in God, and all the lessons and experiences that have shaped us into the girls we are today. Most of all, thank you for always believing in us and being a man of your word like nobody else I've ever known. In the end, I know you've given it all, and after a lifetime of health struggles, your body had nothing left to give. I thank God for having brought me back in time to spend those last precious moments together. I'm so glad you got to meet James and spend the week surrounded by the people that love you. I'm so proud to be your daughter. Dad, I love you millions of times.
Hello, I'm Amy. Rod would introduce me as daughter number 4. Just want to thank everyone for being here today. And I know Rod was many things to many people, to all of you. His life and legacy reached great lengths. But by the wonderful, merciful grace of God, I had the privilege of knowing Rodney as my dad. There is much history, but what I will carry with me for the rest of my life is what he instilled in me, which naturally I should have never had the privilege of knowing. But being his daughter, I learned to have a voice, that I don't have to settle for silver, that I'm valuable, and everything that encompasses that. And he would always look at me in the eyes and say, I love you, daughter. No matter how I was towards him, which there were times where it could be quite horrible in the early years, he was always the same, always consistent. He loved me no matter what he received in return. He treated me the exact same he treated his eldest 3 daughters. And it was beyond anything I could have ever imagined being treated that way. He exemplified Christ greatly in this way: steadfast, long-suffering. He wasn't perfect, as none of us are, but he never, ever, ever quit. He never stopped trying. A relentless love. And all that mattered to him in the end was those he loved above all else, following only his love for his Savior. And it does, to be honest, feel too soon, of course, but I am beyond thankful and beyond blessed for the time we did have. 8 years in the grand scheme of life isn't a long time, but those 8 years will impact me for the rest of my life. I should have had a very different life if it wasn't for him. And I will still be learning and unpacking everything as life goes on and as I grow. But I'm beyond thankful for the family that I was given, my sisters and a dad, which I never ever, my whole life, thought I would call anyone that, but I have been beyond blessed and I'm beyond thankful for the time we did have and everything that will come from that, and that we will all be together again one day. I would just like to read a verse that everyone knows. It was chapter actually. It was heavy on my heart nearing the end of Rod's departure to heaven, and it made me think of him and his relationship with the Lord. It was very beautiful and very simple. And so I'm just going to read Psalm of David, Psalm 23. And it brings me comfort to this day. And I will be looking back on it, thinking of him when I need to. So Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. I have everything I need. I know this is how God felt with the Lord. It's beautiful. He lets me rest in green meadows. He leads me beside peaceful streams. He renews my strength. He guides me along right paths, bringing honor to his name. And even when I walk through the dark valley of death, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me. You prepare a feast for me in the presence of my enemies. You welcome me as a guest, anointing my head with oil. My cup overflows with blessings. Surely your goodness and unfailing love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will live in the house of the Lord forever. Which he has fulfilled that. So, I will miss him more than words can describe. And thank you for being my dad. I love you.
Hello everyone, my name is Daniel and I have the honour and privilege of having a dad, but not just any ordinary dad. I consider Rodney Clarke to be a man among men, and I think he's the pinnacle of everything I ever wanted in a dad. From a very young age, I didn't have a dad. I grew up without a person to discipline, a person to instill the qualities of life that you need to live a successful life. And I knew from a very young age that I lacked those qualities and that I needed them. And growing up, I'd see other people with their father, and I would be very, I guess, aching inside, and I continuously prayed to God out of my heartache that He would give me a father, and so He did, but it wasn't like I expected. So in 2017, around about August, Rodney came along, my dad, and at the time I didn't call him that, but he was taking my mum out, and I was not very pleased with that idea. And our introduction was him giving me a birthday gift, which was very thoughtful, very special. And the more he made his presence in my life more known, the more I began to realize that he's fulfillment of the prayer that I prayed to God. He didn't always know exactly what to do. The thing about Dad was that if he didn't know the exact right thing to do, he'd try his best. And he knew what he did. He tried what he knew what was best. Throughout his whole life, he experienced hardship that many people can't imagine. He was raised in a home where love wasn't the foundation, and those important things which he instilled in me weren't in his home. He lacked those things, and he came from a place of deficit, and I think that's an incredible thing, because throughout his whole life he always gave. He never was the victim, ever. And he always used every opportunity to bless someone else, to be there for someone else, and to do things that they couldn't for them, and stand up for them. He wasn't also just a provider, but he was a protector as well, and it went beyond his family. And when I was starting high school, an example of him trying his best, I was in my own world, and I was not very good at school, but he tried his best, and he made me sign a contract.
There's been a few of those.
He made me sign a contract, and I was not very happy being forced to sign a contract. But I looked at it from a certain point of view when I was that age, and I thought he was just trying to make me be perfect and be everything that, I thought I wasn't. But I said to him, "You just want me to be perfect?" And he said, "No, I want you to try your best. I want you to give it your all." And to have someone like that just be that strong presence in your life that you need. It goes beyond words. And he taught me so many valuable things about being a man that I always wanted. And he taught me to have a backbone and not a wishbone. He taught that to all of us, actually, in different ways, in different scenarios. But he ripped me away from my own false reality, and he woke me up, and he was like, Daniel, you need to move, you need to work with your hands. And because he always believed that I had something to offer, something good to give. But he always believed in that in everyone, and he had amazing insight into everyone's lives. He saw things many other people couldn't see, and he saw potential. And that was because he was a very refined man. He was a man of taste. He could see the subtleties and the beauty of the small things. Even though he had so much competence, he was such an amazing man. He was a lawyer. He was a Chinese practitioner. He wasn't Chinese, he just, you know. He owned multiple businesses. He lived a life where it should have been everything a man could ever want, according to the standards of the world. But he shared with me, I remember having a discussion with him because I asked him many questions about it. He shared with me that it's not fulfillment, and all those things don't really mean much. And everything that those things are hyped up to be are not what they are. And he really took the time to appreciate his family. He was an honourable and amazing husband, an honourable and amazing father, a friend, and so many things to so many people, as you all know. But yeah, he was everything I could have ever wanted, and I don't regret for a second for calling him Dad, for being able to say, call someone my dad, ever. And I'm really going to miss him, and I know everyone else is as well. But I think the most important thing to take away from this is the fact that we all have the opportunity to be like that, representing him in the best way we possibly can, but living rich and honorable lives. I'm going to miss you, Dad, and thank you for everything you have given us. And thank you for the fact that you are God now. Amen.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you on behalf of all of our family for giving your time today to honour a beautiful and remarkable man, Rodney Clarke. I first met Rod in 2001. He and Geraldine belonged to the same church that I attended when I was on staff. I got to know them over a few years. I had eaten a meal with them at their home, got to experience Geraldine's beautiful cooking. And then in 2004, Rodney conducted a legal case for somebody who was close to me at the time. The case didn't directly involve me, but the outcome of it was going to big time impact myself and Amy and Daniel. it was a success, and I was extremely thankful for that. Over that time, you don't realise you get to know a lot of things about people, particularly observing and interacting with people in life. And I have to say, I always admired the way that Rodney would refer to Geraldine in conversation. It was very respectful and loving. And so our paths went different ways. From about 2006, the children and I went to Alice Springs for 4 years to live with my brother Andrew, his twin brother, our Desmond, 7 children between them, and Grandma came with us, my mother. We were there for 4 years, and then in 2011 we returned back to Brisbane. Rodney and my paths crossed again in 2016 via a friend who was a friend to both of us. He told me at that time that Geraldine had gone to heaven, which of course was very sad. And we were attending a Bible teaching seminar together. This particular Bible scholar, I greatly admired and loved to listen to his teaching for several years. Every time I listened to him, he reminded me of Clarke, because he was a real no-nonsense guy. He was brilliant, and there were other things about him. So when he was coming to Brisbane, I mentioned to the friend that Clarke should come along and listen to this guy, because I think you'll really like him. And then the friend said to me, well, Rod's already going. So we got to speak again that day in July 2017, after not having spoken for many years. Rodney had tickets to, I think it was Hands Inside. He pre-purchased them, and I think his daughters couldn't go, or there was some story to it. And so in the middle of the Bible teaching meeting, he looks behind the person between us and says, do you want to come to the concert? Knowing that I was musical. So I didn't reply at the time, and then he said to me, let me know as soon as you can so I can make other arrangements. I said, I'll let you know by tomorrow evening. The next day, I was trying to figure out all day a reason that I could say no. I'm thinking, is this a date? Is this not a date? Because I don't do that. But anyway, by 9 o'clock the next night, I couldn't really think of a valid reason, so I sent him a message and said I'd go with him. So that was on the 12th of August 2017, and I have to say he asked me that evening, as we were walking up to the concert hall, if he could hold my hand so that we didn't rub shoulders, you know, in the corridors and things like that. He was very smooth, wasn't he? And of course, I had absolute trust and admiration for him. We had a conversation that night at coffee, and he did indicate that, you know, he would marry, he would consider marrying again. And I said to Rod, I said, why would you do that? You know, you've raised 3 beautiful daughters, and you know, there's a lot of things you want to do, third world projects and things like that, and you could just enjoy your retirement. And his reply to me was this: I still feel as though I have something to give. That was his reply. Why would he marry again? Because I still feel as though I have something to give. And that really just speaks so accurately of Rod. He was such a giver. He lived to give to those he loved. When we were married 4 months later to the day. And of course, because we'd both known each other before, I guess that's why we decided to marry so quickly, other than the fact that, you know, we were both getting on in age. He took on Grandma. Grandma lived with us, my mum. At the time, she would have been about, what, 90 like that, or a bit less. You know, I think When Rodney met my mother, I think for the first time in his life, he met his match. They locked horns on many occasions, mother being fiercely protective of myself and the two children. But they came to love each other very dearly. Rod was so tender and beautiful with her. She would love it when he would read the Bible to her every day. She'd sit there and just look into his eyes and he'd read the Bible. He'd take the time to do that. On more than one occasion, Rodney had to pick her up off the floor, you know, because she'd fall in the middle of the night. He was so loving. Mum went to heaven on the 31st of August 2018, so I think it was only about 8 months that Mum was with us in the home. I loved being married to Rod. I thought it was a great honour to be his wife. We were both very traditional, I guess, and old-fashioned in our approach to setting up a home. I really loved that. As you know, Rod was a barrister, and I had worked for lawyers from the age of 17. And then for the 7 years preceding our meeting again, I worked as a court reporter. And so it just seemed like the right thing to do, that, you know, we'd work from home and I'd be Rod's PA. He was the hardest person I've ever worked for, let me tell you. But it was very interesting. I loved picking his brain and finding out why he did things a certain way, and yeah, it was lovely. I can tell you though, going to court with him, I'd listened to thousands of hours of barristers, you know, on their feet in court. But when my husband was the one before, you know, the judge, it was quite, it was nerve-wracking. I never did quite get used to that. But anyway, praise the Lord. The thing one of many things I love about my husband, of course, but one of the things is that he did take a great interest in people. He wasn't a softie with people in one sense. I think he had an eye to see their potential, and if anybody had an interest in something, Rod would always both encourage them and many times, particularly with his children, Amy and Daniel and even myself, do everything he could to facilitate whatever it was they were interested in. Daniel, he bought you your first set of acoustic drums, and Amy that French clarinet, and many other things. And I did love, one thing I did love also was the beautiful way that Rod showed his 5 children. He chose to be their dad, and he did it with all of his might and all of his heart. One of the beautiful ways he showed them their worth. As you know, he did buy all of his girls beautiful jewellery, and it wasn't to be extravagant, but it was to teach them what their true value was. And I remember when Amy, you had your 80th party, and Rod gave you a beautiful ring. And when he gave it to you, he said, if the guy you're thinking about marrying doesn't do it at least as good as this, kick him to the curb. And I think he said similar things to all the girls, maybe possibly with a little bit more strong language or something back then. There are so many things we could say. But what I'd like to just say to you is that I want to mention his beautiful sisters. He adored them. It was so wonderful that in June last year, we got to travel to Sydney and spend quality time with both Robin and Ruth. They're watching online right now. Yeah, he was a man of great love. And what I'd just like to mention is that when Rod was in ICU, 3 days before he went to heaven, I remember standing at his bedside and, you know, just pondering over the man that he is. And it's interesting how many things come to mind at that time. Throughout life, we do place, you know, varying degrees of importance on different things, but you know, when the chips are down, when you're about to breathe out your last, there's only a couple of things that really matter. And I was just lovingly admiring how much I know that he poured his life out for everybody that he loved. Not just family, friends, and it was just such a beautiful thing. He was such a giver. He didn't suffer fools and he didn't like nonsense. He had a very high standard, but really my husband was so very compassionate and wonderful. He loved the Lord Jesus Christ, and I just want to give you a little bit of insight into him, into his life with the Lord. From the beginning of our marriage, Rod's always been a man of prayer. He would love every day to get his Bible out, and he would read certain passages, and then he would start his prayer for the day. His prayer for the day always started with the Lord's Prayer, a very well-known prayer. And the very next thing Rod would say is, Lord, I want to give you thanks for every beat of my heart and every breath that my lungs draw. He would then praise God for being the creator, and he would pray for heads of nations. He had, as you can imagine, it was a very well-ordered and structured prayer time with the Lord. I'd like to tell you that looking around the room today, many of you were daily on his prayer list that he would bring before the Lord. People had come into his life for, season, whether it was a client or a colleague or something like that. But long after maybe they were not around him, he would continue to pray for him. His first prayer always was that the person would come to a saving knowledge of the Lord Jesus Christ. And then anything else that he knew and petitioned the Lord for when he was praying. There was something else, but it has slipped my mind. You'll hear a lot more from friends and other family members, and I just want to give God praise that I had the honour and privilege of being Mrs. Clarke. And I always said to Rod, you really deserve to be looked after. You should be looked after. Somebody should be looking after you. And I was glad that I got the job. And just one last little thing. As you know, Rod was very busy in law and also in Chinese medicine, but one of the things I loved about him was that if he'd come past the dryer and the clothes were dry, he'd stop and he'd take the clothes out of the dryer and he would fold them. If he saw the dishwasher was finished, he would unload it for me. He really appreciated every little thing that I did. I was never taken for granted. And one thing I do love is that sometimes if I thought I'd put an ordinary meal in front of him, I'd say, look, I don't know what this will be like. And he'd just say to me, nobody else has cooked for me today. He was always thankful and grateful. And I'm honoured to be Mrs. Clarke, and we're all honoured to know a truly great man. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Shana. Dear Ruth and Robin, sorry, took my lunch.
I'm so sorry. I took it all.
I believe it's time to hear from Rod's sister, Ruth.
Yes, so we can.
Yeah, so if you'd like to sit.
But we're both having health issues at the moment and can't travel. I'm Rod's younger sister Ruth, and I'd like to share my part in the story of Rod's life and give some insight into his earlier years from childhood up until when he moved from Brisbane to Sydney. My mother often told me how Rod couldn't wait for me to be born, that he would nag her constantly about when was I going to come out, as though this was something she could do something about. He had just turned 6 when I was born and mustn't have ever seen a newborn baby before, because he took one look at me and exclaimed, "Why didn't you tell me she'd be so small?" And so began the bond with my brother Rodney. Madonna recently reminded me that one of Rod's favourite memories from our childhood is something that I did at about page 3. We were down at the local park. It had a playground, and apparently I climbed to the top of the slide, stood up and shouted at the top of my lungs, "My daddy says bullshit!" And I repeated this declaration many times over. I don't know whether my father really did say bullshit, but certainly everyone thought he did after that. I'm not sure if it was seeing that wildness in me, or whether he just really wanted his little brother. But when one of my children, he played with me as though I were a boy. He would don his cape, Zorro cape, and mask, and we'd have swashbuckling sword fights up and down the stairs of our house. For my 5th birthday, he gave me a pair of boxing gloves and taught me how to spar. I then proceeded to challenge all the boys in my class to sparring duels, and with Rod's coaching, within a year I could beat all of them. The Vietnam War was in full swing, so Rod made us machine guns out of offcuts of wood and conducted covert missions in our backyard. Even as a child, Rod was passionate about cars, and he had a huge collection of matchbox cars, and we would race them. We'd crouch at the start line and we'll rev up our cars, let them go, and wait to see who's crossed the line first. He was a kind and lovely brother of all children. Many older siblings delight in spoiling the myth of Santa Claus for their juniors, telling them that Santa Claus isn't real. Rod did the opposite. He made it extra exciting for them. On Christmas morning, he'd tell me how he'd heard the sleigh bells in the middle of the night, looked out the window, and there were the reindeer, and there was Santa with a huge sack of presents for us. He made it seem so exciting and real that I would say, "Oh yes, I saw it too." Rod suffered horribly with asthma from the time he was about 2. It was before the days of puffer sprays and drugs like Ventolin that we have now to treat asthma. Several times he was rushed to hospital to receive injections of adrenaline to keep him breathing. One time he was rushed to hospital in the middle of the night, and I was so worried about him the next day that my Sunday school teacher and her husband took me to visit him in hospital. I wasn't allowed to go into the ward. He was on the ground floor, so we walked around outside and found his room. And even though he was in a dreadfully weakened state, as soon as he saw me, he hopped out of bed and came over to the window and talked to me and assured me that he was okay. I can only imagine how terrifying it must have been for Rod to go through those attacks and to be fighting to breathe. But I also think it taught him how to really hold his nerve and developed that resolute determination that we have all seen in him, not to be defeated, no matter how dark and impossible things may seem. I've always been really passionate about music, and Rod gave me my first album when I was 7 years old. It was called The Seekers Sing Their Big Hits. And he bought it for me because at the time I just loved CDs. I still have the album. I've kept it all these years, even though I got rid of all my other vinyl albums back in the 90s. He was my biggest musical influence. For some people it's their parents, and for many people it's their parents. But my parents were older when they had me, and I thought their music was boring. Whereas Rod was into pop music, and he liked to play it loud, and he liked to play it every day, and I loved it. His favourites back then were the last 3 Beatles albums and a compilation album by his beloved Bee Gees. But he had about 50 albums all up and lots of singles, lots of 45s as well. I still feel a warm affection when I hear songs that are an indelible part of my childhood because of Rod. Rod taught me how to ride a bike and happily fixed my bike for me whenever it needed mending, patching, punctured tyres, refitting the chain, replacing the brake pads. A kind, lovely brother. Well, he was, until he became an awful, horrible teenager who teased me relentlessly and mercilessly. No one else has ever made me feel the intensity of frustration and anger that Rod made me feel back then. If I could have figured out how to do it, I probably would have killed him. It wasn't just his temperament that changed. He had a growth spurt and started to fill out. He was no longer a child, though I still was. He started swimming competitively to strengthen his lungs. It was very good. And it didn't just help his lungs, it strengthened his whole body. He was also a great water polo player. And later in life told me that the real competition in water polo is what's going on below the surface. He was pretty brazen as a teenager, with a cocky reverence for the rules, always pushing me on board. A few years ago, I sat with Rod and our cousin Mick while they reminisced about some of the naughty things they got up to in their teenage years. My favourite was the time when, as 16-year-olds, they decided to go to the local pub for a drink. Rod was tall for his age and very muscular because of all the swimming, and he could easily pass for a man of about 20. But Rick hadn't even begun to develop. He was short for his age, he was small and puny, and he looked about 12. The bartender had no problem giving Rod a drink, but balked at serving alcohol to Rick. So Rodney told me that Rick was a jockey. By year 12, Rod was too old for school. His personality and energy just didn't meld with the restrictive, regimented environment. Perhaps that was a reaction to our home life, where our domineering father ruled the house like a dictator. Rod worked to be able to buy himself his own first car as soon as he got his driver's license. It liberated him, but it also resulted in him not getting the marks he needed to be able to get into law at university. He tried to repeat year 12, but he only lasted a month. It was just too small and constraining for him. Not to be deterred, he started studying law through the Solicitors and Barristers Board. So for many years, Rod was working a full-time day at legal practices during the day and studying law at night. using his creative approach to making the rules work for him, he managed to start his own practice even before he graduated by forming a business partnership with a qualified solicitor. That meant his responsibilities increased and his workload increased, and that detracted from his studies, and there were some setbacks. But with that irresolute, I meant to say resolute determination. He finally qualified in his own right. And there's a photo of him at his graduation, and I think you can see the triumph in his face that he'd been able to hang in there and finally made it. As we moved through our 20s and into our 30s, Rod's and my relationship became more egalitarian and harmonious again, and we had a lot of fun times together. A couple that stand out for me are one year, a group of us took Sylvia to an amusement park called Australia's Wonderland for her birthday. We were all walking around together, going on various rides, playing the games, and then we came to a ride that looked really scary, and only Rod and I wanted to go on it. It was terrifying from the get-go. After a few seconds, we looked at each other and both started roaring with laughter. And the longer the ride went, the harder we laughed. It just got more terrifying, side-splitting laughter that didn't stop until the ride did. Another time, we went out to dinner, just Rodney and two of us. This night he introduced me to Margaret River wine, and I loved it. We got through at least 2 bottles, and as the wine went down, our mirth increased, became quite boisterous. It reached a crescendo when we noticed the gigantic Hudson spider the size of your hand edging down the wall at the table across from us towards a large party of people. We watched with eager anticipation, waiting for the moment to see it, and finally, someone screamed. They all leapt up from their feet and ran away from the table, and Rod and I exploded with laughter. I think everyone thought we enjoyed it just a little too much. It wasn't all fun and laughter with Rod and me though. We were a couple of Scorpios who could inflict a nasty sting. We tried playing sport, and that was not a positive experience for any of us. First we tried tennis, but I kept getting frustrated that I couldn't return Rod's first serve, and he just loved to rub that in and mock me. One day I was so frustrated I started screaming at him for a good couple of minutes, calling him every name I could think of, and after that he refused to play tennis with me anymore. A few years later we tried squash, but at that time I was playing competition squash and hadn't lost a game all season. So when Rod and I played, he hadn't been able to win a single game off me. Even after he tried intimidating me by crowding me, and when playing one shot, nipped the corner of my eyelid and made it bleed, he was absolutely livid that he'd been given a hiding by his little sister. I don't think we ever played sport against each other after that. Rod could be parental and bossy with me and treat me like a subordinate. I was reactive and volatile. Tempers flared, voices were raised, harsh words were spoken, But the venom in our stingers was never long lasting. When Rod told me that he was moving to Brisbane, I was actually quite shocked. He had given me no warning that he was even contemplating the move. It had been decided, it was a done deal, it was happening. And I was quite shattered but did not. Rod and Sylvia stayed with me for a couple of days before they moved to Brisbane. It either was Sylvia's birthday or it was about to be, and I wanted to have a little celebration for her. So I decorated my flat with streamers and balloons. We had party blowers and hats and sparklers, and I'd made a cake for her. So I'd been occupied, my attention had been occupied doing all of that and not thinking about the impending move. We had a lovely time and everything was fine until it came time for them to leave. When Rob and I hugged each other goodbye, we both just started howling our eyes out. And that was when I knew how upset I was that my brother was moving away. The move to Brisbane was far more significant than it would be today. There were no cheap airfares like we have now. A return fare to Brisbane was about $700, and that was about, back then, it was worth about a month's rent. Interstate telephone calls were charged according to length of call, so they were cheap. And no one had mobile phones. So it was a big move. I travelled by train to visit Rod several times during the first year in Brisbane, and each time it was the same. Everything was fine until it came time to leave, and then we would both just start sobbing. Such was my relationship with Noel. Sometimes laughter, sometimes tears, sometimes great anger. But always love and the understanding that we were deeply bonded. For various reasons, after the first year, I didn't see Rod as often, and our lives were no longer interwoven. I still felt bonded to him, and was always certain of his love for me. But it wasn't the same as when we both lived in Sydney and saw each other all the time. I'm really grateful I was able to see him when he and the Don came to Sydney in June. I just wish I'd known. I just wish I'd known that when I was saying goodbye, I was saying goodbye for the last time. I still feel bonded to him. If I close my eyes, I can still hear him. I can still see him, and I can still feel him. It seems incomprehensible that he's gone.
There's a lot of things you don't know about people, aren't there? We talk about, well, the youngsters to me, they're just Rod's kids. He took on 5 children that genetically he had no responsibility toward. I think he was a better father to those 5 than many genetically connected parents ever are. I've got to check the lunch. Sylvia, Simon, I don't know if you want to come up at the same time. The guys are going to share, read some tributes from relatives that can't be here today. And then perhaps after Amy has read Josiah's tribute, we go straight into the song.
Thanks, John. I'd like to read for everybody a message from Rod's cousin, Rick. He's not able to be here today, but he's just sent a short message to the family. He said, I was very saddened to hear the news of Rodney's passing. It's strange because last week I was thinking about him. Rod and I were very different, but we always got along well. He had to put up with a lot from his father, as did I with mine, and this is a bond we shared, especially as we went into adulthood. In some ways, you never fully come to terms with that. He felt your pain and suffered with you. When the chips were down, he pushed towards the light, and I respect that. I miss his energy and positive attitude to life. Rick. And then another message from someone very special to Dad, Des McCallan, Rod's brother-in-law in America. And this was his tribute to Rod. Dear Madonna, Amy and Daniel, we would have treasured being with you today, but an ocean separates us. So here we are. So here are some thoughts and love from Julie and I for you all. We're thinking of you all today and praying for you three on this day in particular. Rod to Des was a wonderful brother whom he loved from the first time they met. Julie and I saw him, a man who was humble, fiery, and yet willing to apologise when wrong, a gentleman towards you and the young children. Rod came into your life as a gentleman who held your hand through the crowd on the first night he took you out. Was that the night you fell asleep during the music, Madonna? Maybe you were so relaxed. Des looked after the kids that night. Wow, how time's flown. Since then, together as flesh, as one flesh, you loved each other deeply. Grew in Christ as a family unit, dealt with troubles, ran 2 home businesses, of which one dealt with people's legal problems and the other provided medical relief and solutions for many people. You both often forgave, more often laughed, and grew a legacy together in your children. Amy, you know your worth and value, even more so after having Rod in your life. You saw how a man should treat a woman and vice versa from Mum, as you observed and lived through the thick and thin with you all under one roof. Rod loved and will enjoy through eternity your humour. Too bad you won't get to watch Mr. Bean in glory together, but I know we will have a lot to always laugh and rejoice about. Auntie Julie says, praise God that Mr. Bean is not going to be watched in heaven. Who you are and your quirks will never change. They're Jesus' gift to you. Daniel, remember you wanted a man in your life to guide and teach you how to be a man. That wisdom from God and prayer from the Lord at a young age certainly brought Rod into all of your lives. Like Jim Sanders said, Grandma's prayer was responsible for bringing him to Australian shores. We often thought of Rod and Daniel's life together as a parallel of Jesus and Peter. Much loved, mistakes made, sincere at heart. Rod is living the other side of the veil, but the real man, a godly Jesus man and great love, still resides under the same roof as you. That's Daniel, not Amy. Now life continues to move forward towards our own eternity, each walk by the Spirit-led life. The legacy Rod is in you both, Amy and Daniel. The life lessons you have from his treasure chest will help hold you fast as you live each day. He's proud of you and so are we. Love to you all, Des and Julie.
At I've just got a message here from Pam Roach, which is, I think, Dad's great aunt. Yeah. Rodney was always close to bad health. His asthma had dogged his life since babyhood. I have known him since he was 6 years old, a quiet and charming boy. He was always brilliant at his studies and took up swimming very seriously because of his illness. His mother was devoted to curing him, and every effort a new drug was brought in for this purpose. Some of these drugs had a bad effect in later life. However, Rod pressed on with patience, and in his teenage years, his grandmother and Auntie Joan loomed large in his life. Some of the drugs had a bad, However, his grandma and Auntie Joan loomed large in his life. He often bicycled over to see and stay overnight with them, particularly Maisie and Roy, Clarke and Joe. In spite of everything, he remained buoyant, continued his studies in law, and eventually rose to the bar. Moving to Queensland in the late 80s, he brought his parents with him and looked after them for the rest of their lives. Rod was very successful in his career and had always been a caring, generous, and very kind to his friends and older family, such as ourselves. Later on, I found him to be a very holy man with a great faith in God. His prayerfulness was very private and in-depth. He loved his girls and boy, and Madonna was very close to his heart. He was so proud of her achievements in music and in her Christian ministry. Farewell, my friend, and thank you. With love, Pam.
Just a tribute from Josiah McCallan, who was nephew. I am so sorry for this loss. We know that what we lose, heaven gains, but grieving can be so difficult when it's someone who was such a wonderful man of God. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to build the relationship with Rod that I would have wanted to, now that I'm more mature. But to know Rod was to know the people he surrounded himself with. I'll admit, I was never fond of Rod at first because of how annoyingly protective I was over you, Amy, and Daniel. But one of the great things about being around someone for a few years is that you get to see who they really are when their walls eventually come down and judge them based on that. Funny enough, even after a few years, Rod was the exact same man I had met on day one. A wise man is someone who wears the same face with people as he does in his devotions with the Lord, and Rod was that man to me. He was consistent in his bad jokes and consistent in his discipline. He didn't come into the family at just the right time, but at a God time, something so intentional that no one could have planned it except the Lord. Love you all so, so much. Keep running your race. I just have a last message from Dr. Smith. Was a patient of Dad's, and she said, it's an honour to present my words to respect Rodney Clarke, who passed away in December 2025. I met Rod in 2017 through a mutual friend as a Chinese medicine practitioner and an acupuncture clinician. He treated me weekly and acupuncture and Chinese herbs, and later fortnightly. For the last 6 years, Rod travelled the 30-minute drive to my home to treat me. Rod worked two professions, one as a barrister and one as a Chinese medicine practitioner and acupuncture clinician. He would always have time to listen and support me. I trusted him 100%. Like Roger Federer would say, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. My thoughts of you, Rod. His treatment continued into mid-2025 until his own health deteriorated and he was unable to treat me. Rod worked under such pressure for his clients, and he had valued family time with his lovely wife, Madonna, and their family. He took flowers home to Madonna when he passed a flower shop, a lovely gift to his wife. Over the years, Rod supported me and accompanied me to other appointments and gave me lots of good sound advice. As the treatments improved my health, I changed my diet to better eating habits. On a social side, Rod and a few of his mates enjoyed AFL games at the Gabba in footy season to support the Lions. Thank you for all your support over the years. Such a sad loss for your family, friends, and for myself. Rest in peace, Rod. Smith.
And I've got a message from Malcolm Davidson, who is Dad's cardiologist. Madonna, please accept my condolences to you and Rodney's family. I will remember him as an intelligent and highly capable man with strong commitments to both his work and family. I know how much he valued your love and support, as he spoke of it often. It has been a pleasure to have known him, cared for him, and shared with him over the last 9 years. My thoughts are with you at this difficult time. Malcolm Davidson.
Another friend tribute from the Skeleton. In the decades I have known Rod, he has been the truest of friends. There has been none better. He was a patient listener, perceptive and astute in getting to the heart of the matter, a wise scriptural counsellor, and a fount of knowledge on every subject. A great joy to speak with about all things Christian, political, financial, and family. For many years, I have also been Rod's patient as he used his very great skill in acupuncture to keep me pain-free. Lastly, Proverbs 12:10 equates the care of animals with righteousness. All of us who saw Rod's great kindness and gentleness to Max and Peggy saw that in practice. He was a truly unique man. I don't like to say was, because he very much still is. But with his and our Lord and Saviour, Jesus Christ, and one day there will be a wonderful reunion there for all of us. He is sadly missed by Graham, myself, and our family.
Thank you, guys. Just going to have a few words from Henry, if you from friends, yes. Henry, if you'd like to come, and Kevin, Craig, Roy, and Wayne, if you want, if you still like to speak, very welcome to this.
I hope I'm not too loud. I don't know what it sounds like down there. My name's Henry Douglas. I'm a general practitioner in the Central Business District of Brisbane City. Donna asked me to say a few words. I was a very close friend of Rod Clarke for many years now. He has many others I've just heard about today. It was very powerful listening to family, as a husband, a brother, and I didn't know all those things about Rod. But what I'm going to talk about is not family values, but some friendships. And what are really friends all about? Well, who are friends? Well, your closest friends in the real world are your direct family, your spouse, your children, your extended family. Perhaps some of those people that you grew up with, went to school with over many years, you may have some bonds and stay together. Okay. But after that, it's not really friends, it's associates. I'm a doctor. I see many people every day. I've got staff that I deal with every day. I've got paramedicals, doctors, and others. But they're not my friends, they're my associates. I don't really know them all that well, but like we were talking about right today. But if you're very fortunate, you may have in your life some very close friends. You may only have one or two. I had four. Rod Clarke was one of those four. These people are people that you can trust implicitly. People that you can confide in when things are good or not so good. People that you know that will keep your secrets. People that you know will always be there. I'll tell you about my 4 close friends. I use them by their nicknames, not by their true names. The first one was I called the sportsman. And he was my best man at my wedding. I knew him and his family going way back. He was now a retired builder. He's gone bankrupt once. I helped him with that. I helped him with his children who had some problems. But I called him a sportsman because during the footy season he rings me several times a week to bet on footy games and with my knowledge about what the games and what's happening. And I know nothing about it, but I just talk to him because he needs that friendship from me. The second friend was a doctor. I've known him for more than 45 years. He's now retired. He taught me how to be a doctor. He taught me how to run medical practices. He taught me how to invest. We went into business arrangements without legal documents on a handshake. This is someone I can trust. Everything went completely correctly. Sadly, his wife died 20 years ago of cancer, and 3 years ago he got dementia. And he died in May 2025. So the first of my 4 best friends died just last year. The third was I called a fisherman. Every time we went down the Gold Coast, this guy wanted me to go out fishing with him all the time. He wasn't really a friend, but we'd go fishing for several hours and sometimes the fish wouldn't bite. We'd talk and talk and talk and we realised we had a lot in common. To this very day, we still talk every couple of weeks. He's now retired, spends a lot of time on the coast. But let's talk about the 4th best friend. I call him the lawyer, Rod Clarke. I've only known Rod about 20 years, not as long as the other guys. Rod was different. He came to me as a patient initially and was very reserved. When you first met Rod, he didn't give anything away. He had quite a brusque, tough outside manner, and he just said a few words telling me what he wanted. I used to work pretty hard. There was a great cafe downstairs, and I'd go down and steal myself a coffee if I had a break. Occasionally, Rod Clarke was there. He usually had a legal brief, and he'd have a coffee, and he allowed me to sit next to him, which was a great privilege at times because he was pretty busy really. And very quickly, this reserved shield that he had in front went away, and Rod started talking to me and laughing and having expressions on his face. I hadn't seen this before in Rod Clarke. I think we probably did gel, that's why he opened up. And I learned 6 things about Rod Clarke, many of them we've discussed today. Rod was a man of great faith, religion, Christian values. You've heard about heaven and other things today, that's where Rod is now. Not many lawyers that I deal with in the city were like that. Secondly, Rod was a pluralistic fellow. He had opinions on everything. He was extremely well read. He knew about politics, he knew about finances, where the world was going, what we should be doing, what we were doing wrong. I didn't agree with everything he went on about. You've heard a bit about alternate health issues. Remember, I'm a traditional doctor, but he was into acupuncture and many other things, and we talked and argued about that as well. The third thing about Rod I learned, he had, and you've heard about it here today, sometimes great losses and tragedies and very tough times in his life. Your father had a tough time coming along. It wasn't an easy track. It wasn't everything went smoothly. It was a tough road for Rod, and he went down that tough road and lived a tough life. You know, the loss of his wife, died of a cancer which was incurable. That was really tough. The other thing I realised, the 4th thing, was that he was restarting again in Brisbane. He was a lawyer, he worked in other places, and he'd come back to Brisbane, and he wasn't one of the blue bloods that went to the top schools and universities. He was starting over. He was matching himself against the others to get going and become a notable barrister in his town. The 5th thing is he was the same age as myself. Oh, he was 6 months old, I think. But, you know, it's great being with a guy that's around about the same age, so we remembered the same things in life as we grew up. And of course, the sixth and the last thing is, Rod, when I met him, was terribly lonely. He was very sad until he met that lady there. I attended their wedding celebration. As you remember, I think it was 2017? 2017. And that was, marrying Madonna was one of the great things that happened for Rod. I'm just going to mention a couple of things that happened with me. A big time in my life was 2016. I sold a smaller practice in years gone by, and then I built up another bigger medical practice. 6 doctors, and I was doing pretty well, but I was 60 years of age. This was 2016. And I wanted out. I didn't want to own a business anymore. And I didn't really know how to get the best value for that business and how to go about it to get everything just right. And I thought about my 4 best friends. Who should I talk to? I chose the lawyer, Clarke. Best thing I ever did. Well, he enjoyed just being with me and discussing the strategy of the sale and how we were going to do it, and, you know, who was the target to buy it and everything. But we spent a lot of time together selling the business. I actually got $100,000 more than what I intended. He reminded me of that every year for the last 10 years. I had a couple of other legal issues that happened over the years, one unpleasant, one not so unpleasant, it happens. And I thought, geez, who do I want as a tough guy to help us sort this out? And I got Rod Clarke, and he was a good lawyer. He was great. No ill feeling, everything ended well. Your father was a very competent lawyer. But 2016 was a difficult time for Rod. That was a decade ago, 10 years ago. His health started failing. He was about 60 as well. From 60 to 70, Rod wanted to achieve a lot more than he did. He wanted to have a good legal career, he wanted a great family life, he wanted to do a lot of things, and he couldn't because of health issues. And I'm not going to talk about each of those health issues, but Rod Clarke had major, major health issues. Every time we overcame one thing, another occurred. You just heard from Malcolm Davidson, his cardiologist. Malcolm knew Rod very, very well. You heard about his asthma. Sitting with Rod sometimes, he was just short of breath. Not even like exercising. He was actually struggling a lot of the time, and this went back to childhood. A lot of us here don't really understand that, but that's the sort of way it was. He came and saw me in about September last year, Madonna, and he said, listen, I think I've had enough. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, no, I think this is getting close to the end now. I was taken back. I cajoled him, I supported him, I didn't agree with him. That was September 2025. At the end of 25, Madonna contacted me to say that Rod had passed. I was shocked initially. I'm sure a lot of you were too. And then I thought back to that time just in September when he said that to me, and I don't know whether he truly had a premonition that things weren't going well or where things were going. You see, Rod also said to me he was a man of faith. He wasn't worried about dying or leaving this earth. He's the only guy that I know that he'd often finish off and say, I'll say a prayer for you. I haven't got another friend that ever said that to me. But I heard Madonna speaking before, and she said he would do that for others as well, frequently. He's one of those guys that meant it. Anyway, I'll leave it there, but I just want to acknowledge to you, Madonna, to his children, to his extended family, and to you, his friends and others, how much we love you, and our sincere condolences from me and from my family for your loss. And I'll just finish with a postscript. Just this week, my oldest daughter had her second child. Isn't it fascinating? Someone leaves and a new one arrives. And this, of course, is the mystery of life. Thank you.
Kevin, are you still up to coming up? Can't see you, where are you, Kevin? There you are.
G'day. For those that don't know me, my name is Kevin Evans. I first met Rodney Clarke, though I only ever called him Rod, old mate Rod. Back in the it would have been the late 90s. I'm from the Sunshine Coast, and at that time Rod was in between Brisbane, Mackay, Sydney. He was all over the place, everywhere. But we got to catch up from time to time, and he was a great guy. I loved the guy. Those meetings turned into being a lifelong friendship and some unforgettable adventures, and adventures they were. Rod was brilliant at his job. He used to say, "The law is an ass." But somehow he always knew exactly how to make it behave. He had a knack of winning cases most people wouldn't touch, and loved standing up for people who had been wronged. Rod and his wife Madonna always worked together, bouncing cases off each other and fighting side by side for those who needed it most. If someone needed a fight, Rod was the first in the ring. He was good. Ready to give the opposition a proper kick in the backside. He was good. I always reckoned Rod was like an egg. Hard on the outside, especially in court. And don't even think about getting the facts wrong with him around. But once you crack that shell, he was all heart, loyal, generous, full of kindness. You had to get past that tough exterior to see the real Rod. And once you did, you knew you had a mate for life. And Rod was a mate for life for me. Back in the late 90s or early 2000s, Rod and I worked and we travelled together. We travelled through Europe, Western Africa, and a few years back, the Pacific Islands too. We saw a lot, got into maybe a few scraps along the way. That happens. I remember one time in the south of France, we were in a small village heading to a farm up in the Pyrenees, and Rod insisted he knew the way. Anyone that knows Rod? He could know the way. Maybe sometimes, all the time. And Rod insisted he knew that way, which somehow we ended up being chased by a very angry sheep. Not a goat, a sheep. We were with friends who owned the hotel which we were staying at, and they just laughed at us. That was Rod, always up for a laugh, always up for a laugh, always ready for adventure. One thing that really stood out about Rod was his faith. We've heard a lot about that today. He knew exactly where he was headed, straight into the arms of Jesus. It wasn't something that he just talked about, he lived it. Even though it feels far too soon, we can take comfort knowing Rod is at peace, free from pain, and exactly where he always believed he'd be. And knowing Rod, he's probably already trying to negotiate his way into the best spot in heaven. Today our thoughts are with Rod's family, Madonna, the kids, the children, and everyone that's here. Rod loved you all fiercely, and it shows by how many people are here today. And knowing Rod, he'd probably be telling us all to stop getting too serious, have a laugh, and celebrate the good times we shared. And before I finish, I've got to mention one of Rod's other talents. Some of you may not know. His mimicry. He was brilliant. The man could do prime ministers and plenty of other politicians' voices spot on. Especially our old mate Anthony Albanese. Man, could he pull that one off well. Rod had him nailed to perfection. He could lighten any room with a joke or a spot-on impression. And those moments are some of my favourite memories that I will hold dearly to me. Rod, we'll miss you, mate. Your courage, your faith, your humour, your friendship made a mark on everyone who knew you, mate. Thank you for your journeys, the stories, the laughs. Your peace in glory, and probably already charming everyone up there. Until we catch up again, mate, one day, my friend, know that you'll never be forgotten. I'll never forget you, mate. Thank you.
Craig? Well, Craig's coming up. Rod had a brilliant way of diffusing a situation with a raucous laugh, sort of out of nowhere. Everyone's sitting serious, and he just had that laugh, and those big teeth of his would come to the fore. He loosened everybody up again.
Well, everyone, my name is Craig Johnston, and it just broke my heart when I got that message from Madonna a little while ago. So trying to work out how long I've known Rod. It was probably almost 25 years. And when I first met Rod, we were neighbours. He moved in, we're in a little cul-de-sac, he moved in over the road from us. And of course, like neighbours, you say, oh, like hi. Anyway, I come home one day, I had a Hilux Jeep parked out in the gutter out the front, and I come home and in the side, the guard's dinted. And I'm thinking, oh, I didn't even note the car, like in the cul-de-sac, how does this happen? And when I get into my house, within 2 seconds, there's a knock on the door. It's Rod. Craig, I reversed into your truck. I'm sorry. From there, 25 years of trusted friendship blossomed from there. And talking about his acupuncture, my wife with our first child, he was over there regularly giving her acupuncture to ease the pain of being heavily pregnant, which was just a blessing to us as a family. In fact, he bought that ute eventually, so it ended up across the road. So we would always be chatting and talking. And even when he moved, we continued just to hang out. We would catch up for coffee whenever we could. In my job, I'm in the optical industry, and I travel far-flung places around the place. And he was always busy with law, but always made sure we'd catch up with each other. And it built such a trust. We know Rod was a brilliant man. An intelligent, smart guy, and here's me, I'm a sales guy selling optical lenses to optometrists, but we just clicked. And to a point where I had a business opportunity come my way in the optical industry, and I said, oh, Rod, have a look at this. I'm seriously thinking maybe, stop working with someone and opening my own business in optical accessories. And Rod looked at me and goes, Craig, can I come in partnership with you? I'm thinking, oh, well, okay, all right, as a silent partner. So we started going doing our due diligence, and I said to him one day, I said, look, what's so fascinating about this business? He said, Craig, it's warm and fuzzy. I like it because it's warm and fuzzy, because it's pseudo-medical. And I thought, okay, well, I don't know how the bank manager's going to go into all that, but let's give it a crack. So we go along, and we're doing our due diligence, and everything's going along. But there's a great country and western song, and we know Rod loves his music, by Garth Brooks, called Some of God's Greatest Gifts Are Unanswered Prayers. And thankfully that business didn't go ahead. We both didn't know what the future was going to happen in the optical industry or business in general, and we're so glad. We laughed about it afterwards. We didn't do it, thank goodness. But then he came to me with other, Kev was part of another major business that he was going to be involved in, more Rod business that I would consider big, helping people, and wanted me to be involved in that. And so we walked down the road of that for a while until it sort of didn't appear. But we just trusted each other immensely, that we just knew we'd had each other's backs. So, we'd catch up and we'd talk. I think, again, he's passionate in so many things. We talked politics, we had a passion for old cars, we talked definitely family. And it just seemed to click and work. And we talk about men stuff, like being men, what we go through as men. And so I guess that this bond and this honesty just grew, and openness just grew. And then Rod's had the love of two spectacular, beautiful women since I've known them, and I met Madonna. They invited me over for lunch to meet Madonna and have a chat and a talk, and these two beautiful women have allowed him to be a father of a son and 4 daughters. And I just a fun fact, I have a son called Daniel. Now my Daniel and Rodney and Madonna's Daniel are born on the exact same day, same month, same year. So when Rod and Madonna got married, I thought, Rod, Dan, you've got to come to the wedding to meet their Daniel. I don't know if you still remember, mate, that little Daniel. And part of our conversations would be, we've never had teenage sons before, so we're like going, hey, is your Daniel do this? Is your Daniel doing this? Mate, that woman crazy, you know, and I'm thinking, so we laugh about it, but concerned as well, because we're both knowing, what the heck do you do? So we realised we're probably all the same. But I think that turned out pretty good. But again, I don't want to talk too much, but basically I just want to say that to his kids that are here, like guys, I can't stress enough how much he loved you and was so proud of you. We would talk about our families and pray about our families, and whether the ups and downs of life, I know he was a tough nut, trust me, I know, but he was always so proud of you and loved you, and you were always first in his prayers. And that, you know, we would share a love of Christ and the gospel, and be praying for you all as our families, as our kids. So, a great man, I just want to say, mate, I miss you already. I look forward to seeing you at home. I have this vision of us, you know, rocking up to a cafe in heaven, Jesus Juices, Christ Cafe, whatever it's called. I'll see your silhouette from the back. You'll turn around with that big smile, give a big man a hug, and I'm sure our discussions on politics and Christ and his return will take a very different light once we're there. But I look forward to it, my friend. I miss you, and I will see you soon. Thank you.
Hey, Rod. Back row, Mr. Summerlin. And actually, yeah, Wayne, you're going to guys coming up together, are you? Yep, Mac. You know, Rod had a way of, yeah, I'll take the mic down. Rod had a way about him of, I think, trying to lead and influence people by reversing into things. A party to a lot of vehicle repairs we needed, and when my sister was moving out of the place she was living in, when she met with Rod again, I had to repair both the brick pillars either side of the driveway because he relocated them at various times.
Very sensitive driver. Very sensitive driver. He always had his own. Sorry, you're sat here and Daniel, Amy, who the hell are you talking about? You suggested that Rod's articulate and polite. Well, imagine there we are together, and Collingwood won the game in the last kick. Boy, did you hear some language there? That poor guy in the black and white jumper said, didn't he cop it? Eh? So, I don't know, I think you're talking about the wrong guy. And the other thing is, we were booked to watch all the games at home on telly next year. And he's a no-show. Right? He's not going to turn up. Let's share a bit of life, you know, he came here with Madonna. He left, not properly dressed. There's his uniform. Goodness gracious. What did you make him wear, a suit or something? Okay. And of course, Wayne. Wayne's got something to say.
Thank you. I met Rod through Roy and Alan, both members of the Brisbane Lions, about 4 years ago. Rod clearly has a love of AFL and the Brisbane Lions. He, like me, enjoyed attending together, and would drive to our apartment and leave his car in the Vista car park. We would then get a lift with one of the group to one of my friends' homes, which was 250 metres from the Gabba gates that we entered. Towards the end of our periods at the Gabba, 250 metres seemed a long way too. But I used to enjoy our chats with Rod during the game and in the intervals. I was sad to hear of his passing because he wasn't, in fact, a really good person. He was a true gentleman, as was said by his daughters earlier, a friend, and I'll never forget him. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak about Rob. He's a great needle man. Thank you for that. I had injuries, old football injuries. He needled me a bit with the real needles. And football, there's a lot of needle between he and I. Whether Chris Fagan, whether Joe Danaher should stay, but Rob was always loyal to the Lions and to the family. Thank you.
And just finish off with a couple of points here to see that one of the things that I point out to Rob, I'm a land surveyor, but a number of times I've turned up in court and been acted as a barrister and solicitor. He's never tried to be a surveyor, but he couldn't measure up.
It's a cadastral joke, I take it, Roy. Family, look, everything's taking much longer than we anticipated. So we're just going to move through. So we're going to sing that song, Wonderful, together. Madonna's going to sing, the gang's going to sing. When you're good,
in all the ways, the highest place is your You are so beautiful. Always at the you are so wonderful.
And now, Dylan, we're just going to have the pictorial journey. This is a favourite song of his.
Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to arrive. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly, into the light of the black night. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly, into the light of the black night. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to arrive. You were only waiting for this moment to arrive. You were only waiting for this moment to arrive. Just to look in your eyes again, just to lay in your heart, just to be the first one, always there for you, just to live in your laughter, just to sleep in your heart. Just to be everyone your dreams come true. Just to sit by your window, just to talk in the night, just to offer a prayer each day for you. Just to long for your kisses, so deep on the inside, can never be taken away, can never be denied. This peace that I have from you, so real on the inside, can never be taken away, can never be denied. Oh, what love, caused you to bear my sin and shame, and I'm not ashamed, I'm not ashamed to bear your name. This joy that I have from you, so full on the inside, can never be taken away, can never be denied. Oh, and this truth that I have from you, so deep on the inside, can never be taken away, can never be denied. Oh, what love, caused you to bear my sin and shame, and I'm not ashamed, I'm not ashamed to bear your name. Oh, what love, caused you to bear my sin and shame. Oh, what love, caused you to take the guilt and blame. Oh, what love, caused you to always want your name. I'm not ashamed, I'm not ashamed to bear your name. This love, so real and deep in my heart, this love that I have from you.
Proverbs says there's a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it's a road to death. Our friend Rob was a complicated and yet extremely simple person. He looked for resolution and peace from the vicissitudes of life. He discovered you can't escape everything, you have to deal with it. He was wary of life at an early age in many respects. But often, he talked to me about the real burden that he bore. With all the love that he had and the love that he lavished, all the responsibilities that he had, the heights he achieved, there was an emptiness which he sought to fill. That's what he was doing. He was never perfect. He'd be the first to tell you that. But what a man. He loved my sister and her children completely. He took on teenagers at their worst, and I'm just here to tell you that my beloved niece and nephew gave him their worst. I was intermediary many times. I never needed to revise the counsel that Rod gave. I may have needed to help soothe its delivery, but never one time in our conversations was his intent ever able to be questioned. And his methods matured over time. The girls that you've heard for, and Marina here too, they had Rod in his earlier years as a parent, growing in wisdom, but not of the stature that he had attained when Madonna and the kidlets, as I like to call them, came into his life. By the time they found one another, he'd found the peace that he'd sought. He didn't know he was looking for peace, he was looking for something, he didn't know what it was. Donna mentioned that there was a Bible, a weekend, like a little Bible conference that they went to, and they met up, and that Bible teacher was Jacob Prash, a brilliant Bible teacher, but that's not really the issue. At that event, I rode my bike down there, my motorbike down there that day, and Madonna was there. I met up, and Des and Julie were also there. I think Des and Jules were also there. And around lunchtime, they had these lovely grounds that everyone spread out. And Julie very kindly had packed some tucker for me, because I never thought of that. And on my way from where the meeting was through to where they'd spread out a blanket on the grass, real quick, I walked past this bunch. Madonna called me over, and there was a bunch of folk from a church I used to go to, and I sat down and for a couple of minutes with them, and there's 9, 10, maybe 11 people in the group, and hello, yeah, good to see you, etc. Introduced, and as I walked away, I don't care if you believe me or not, this has happened many times in my life. As I walked away, I just had to stay out of a particular headspace. As I walked away, I heard the audible voice of God, and he said to me, Madonna will marry that man. It was the most ridiculous thing I ever heard, and I doubted every word of it. I heard very clearly, I knew who was talking about it. I don't ever remember meeting Rodney years ago. Apparently I did. I didn't remember meeting him. As I walked up to Des and Julie, they're sitting on the blanket. Julie hands me up a Ziploc bag with a sando in it, and I'm sitting down and saying, you're not going to believe this. And they said, what? I'm sure the Lord just spoke to me. I heard his voice. He said, Madonna's going to marry that lawyer. They laughed at me. Thought it was quite hilarious. Well, I didn't prosecute the point. I wasn't trying to convince anybody. I related to them what I'd heard, and I wanted to put it on record. That was July 29. What date were you married?
11 December.
December 11. It's got nothing to do with me. I would like to emphasise that I believe it was an arranged marriage. I mean, no one else is cracked up except me. It's great, isn't it? I did love you, you rat bag. I'm going to slap you when I see you. Yeah, he loved people in ways that those people themselves who were the beneficiaries of that love didn't understand and didn't perceive. He looked for unseen help. He would speak of words and questions spoken to the open sky, whispered into the dark of night. He searched for help in the pages of biographies he loved to read. He was learned. We all know that about our Rodney. He loved his classic literature, his classical music. And he sought an answer to a question he didn't quite know how to articulate in all manner of esoteria. He looked at the different things as briefly mentioned. He thought he found it on occasion, but he realised that the pathway that he was following, that pathway that seems right to a man, but the end of that pathway actually only leads to death. He thought he'd found it on occasion, but he realised that that pathway he was following still led back to himself. Every pathway known to man, apart from one, is about self-improvement and self-realisation and self-everything. Every pathway other than one leads back to you, and you being the focus of it all, and you achieving something, and you knowing this. Maybe this bit of knowledge will be the thing that puts you over. Anything that leads back to you ultimately leads back to death, because neither you nor I have the power to conquer death. We don't have the power to overcome the very thing that faces every one of us, which is our end. You know, he was, and he knew that he was, a woefully inadequate and a seriously flawed human being. He knew it. So are you and I. And we may be competent in various fields. You may sing or speak or build or design or parent, whatever it is. We may be very accomplished in a field, but any accomplishment in life doesn't put you anywhere that's worth being in the next. That hounded him as a young man. He'd been through a lot, much of which hasn't been shared today. He'd been through a lot. It made him consider his ways and consider his paths. He made him consider things that some people perhaps don't until later in life. And so I think it was Sylvia that mentioned that there were various interesting religious pursuits that passed through the home by one way or another. He found an answer. He came to an end, and it was the end of himself. He had a wonderful intellect and great learning. You know, he counselled prime ministers and their staff. He masterfully argued at the bar. He was an accomplished sportsman, a father, a husband, a friend. But he found a path that didn't lead back to him. He found a path that wasn't about him becoming something in order to obtain. He found a path to somewhere where everything had been done and attended to. And the realisation of the end that that path had to offer was not by way of accomplishment or achievement, but by way of acceptance, by way of humbling yourself, and realising that as competent as you are, you yourself are no end in itself. And that you yourself can bear no influence on what happens in life after life, other than to take the path of humility and admitting to yourself that you don't have the answers. You don't have what it takes. You may have the wisdom to pursue, but you must have the understanding to accept once you find it. No achievements in life qualified Rodney Clarke regarding the hope that he had in Jesus and life after this. And yet no failures in life disqualified him. I'm sure if you wanted to, you could talk to anyone who know him, and they would be able to point out things about Rodney Clarke that they found difficult. Whatever you do, don't talk to anyone about me. You know, he'd say to me, we'd have conversations about all manner of things. Let's talk, brother. He'd say things like, and if there's to be blood on the walls, let it be so. Not that he was looking for a fight, because he wasn't, but he was looking for honesty. He was looking for sincerity. He was looking for a workable outcome where we actually, he and I, would address the elephant in the room and reduce it to little slices if that's what it meant that we had to do in order to deal with it. We had many, many long conversations about family, every member of our extended family. We prayed together for them. We talked about things. He loved very deeply, much more deeply than many people may know. I'd often turn up at their place in the morning there. He would be out on the front with the birds and everything else chirping away or whatever the heck was going on out in the yard. And there he'd be with his Bible open and I'd walk up. He'd always have the same greeting. Good morning, brother. And there he'd have his list open and so many of your names that he would pray through. There were people on that list that would not speak to him, that didn't want to talk to him ever again. People on that list that had written him off. People on that list that thought they knew better than him, and perhaps they did. But unlike him, for some of them, he was willing to carry the differences to God and trust God to bring resolution in those relationships. He advocated for thousands during his life on earth, yet he realised, he knew, he could not offer a defence for himself when his race was run. He himself will be culpable before him to whom he must answer. Now he stood at the bar. He'd win cases that people thought were unwinnable. He was a brilliant tactician, he told me. I didn't understand this till he explained it to me. Sometimes you have to lose a case in order to establish grounds upon which to win it the next time around. Now, only a flaming lawyer's going to think like that. As I said, he advocated for thousands. And his search for a pathway, that pathway that didn't lead to death, that didn't lead back to himself, that search for a pathway, for a place to lay the burden down that he carried through his life, led him to the feet of our Messiah, to our Jesus. He found peace, not from the storms of life, but in the midst of them. One thing about our Rodney, he battled a lot of storms. And when he found his faith in Jesus, when he was able to talk to someone about it who talked back, though some of you may think it's strange, whose peace could descend upon you, could keep you, could hold you in place, could give you resolution of something unyet resolved, can give you peace in the midst of the turmoil that you're unable to even explain. Things that you care deeply about but no one else seemed to care, but they trouble you. That Jesus, that one. He found himself at his feet and humbled himself and didn't lean upon his learning or his status or his money or anything else. There's a scripture that says that underneath the end of the scripture speaks about the everlasting arms. They were outstretched for a few hours on a Friday. He fell into those arms. Why do I tell you this? Because you all knew him. You knew there was more to him than what anybody saw. In Matthew 11:28, Jesus said, "Are you weary? You're carrying a heavy burden, then come to me. I will refresh your life. I will be your oasis." He grew to love Jesus in a way that's very unique to Rodney Clarke. He spent time with him and in the scriptures in the manner he would when he was preparing for court. He was methodical. He was connecting dots as best he could. He approached his relationship with Jesus a lot of the time almost as if he was speaking from a brief he'd received from a solicitor. Funnily enough, no offence to solicitors, and I know there's at least one here. He'd often say, this is barristers' work. We leave the low-hanging fruit for the solicitors, which I guess you have to be in the legal profession to fully appreciate the sarcasm of that. We would speak for hours. He'd found the truth. And even though I knew he knew and he knew I knew, he wanted me to know that he knew. And he wanted other people to know it. And he would share simply. He would say, "I can't share the gospel like you can, John." And I said, "No, you can't. And isn't that just as well?" He'd share the gospel like he can, in the circles he moved in the lives he touched, which is entirely how it should be. And neither can you, those of you who know Jesus and know the gospel. You can't be like anybody else. All of us have one metric against which we measure our lives, and that metric is our Lord Jesus. People think that Christianity is defined by miracles. It's not. Jesus said, "If you love me, you'll keep my commandments." People aren't Christian because they're named Christian, because they attended church. I don't care what brand of church they attend. They're disciples. They live their life as they understand to live it, with the best counsel at the time that they have, and their understanding of the ways of God, and they seek to please Him. And I'm here to tell you now, we don't always please Him, but He always loves us. Because He didn't love us because of our accomplishments, our Jesus. He didn't love Rodney because he was a barrister. Because he raised 5 children who are his own, but in a way weren't. He didn't love him because of that. He loved him in spite of anything you and I might find lovable or not lovable. Jesus loves without condition. Our responsibility is to requite that love, to turn our heart back to Him. Maybe for the first time, humble yourself, as our beloved Rodney did. See, there's a Bible verse which you all know. This is the way that God loved the world, that He gave His one and only Son, so everyone who believes in Him will not perish, but they will have everlasting life, not because they did anything other than believe in Him. You understand? That was it with Rodney. He knew he'd had to stand before the heavenly bar one day, where he was unable to represent himself. Well, more to the point, unable to defend himself. If you find yourself in a position where you have no advocate in that day, you don't want to be there. The Bible calls Jesus our advocate, our solicitor, our representative, our barrister. And any charge brought against us, He argues in our stead. Simple. And Rodney understood that aspect of our redemption. And he hoped for all that you'd stand before that heavenly bar one day and have another speak in your behalf. And not be left to the hopeless resort of having to speak for yourself. There are balances that will be weighed, but no weight you can bring can tip the balance in your favour. But there is one who has but to put his finger on that balance. And the favour and mercy that can be found, that favour and mercy comes to you. You see, God didn't send his Son into the world to condemn the world. That wasn't the whole point. Jesus didn't come to tell you what you're doing wrong. He came to show you a way out. He said, I'll be the one who does the achieving, you be the one who does the believing, and we're going to be good. Because you can't do what's needed, but I can. So I'll do it. I'll live the life that's needed. And then the value of my life will accrue to you if you will allow it to. But if we deny it, it's okay, because it's a free gift. There's no constraint with the gospel. It wasn't me. Or maybe it was. No, it wasn't me. There's no constraint with the gospel, beloved. I'm almost finished. It's okay. God didn't send his Son into the world to condemn it. He sent his Son to the world so that we, through him, could have eternal life. The whole idea of Jesus coming wasn't to make it worse. It was to let us escape the storm of life. And though there is hardship and difficulty in this life, there is a life to come. I don't want to face hardship and difficulty in the next life. I want to see my friend Rodney again. And all those other beloved who've gone before us. Life has a finished line for all of us. The question to be answered is, who will be waiting for you? Who will be waiting for me? I'm not talking about Hollywood's version of family and all the rest of it at the end of a tunnel or something stupid. Who will be waiting for you? There are no scales, no balancing of good deeds versus bad. There's a metric, a standard, a measure by which we either qualify or we fail. One measure. And his name's Jesus. His name is not Catholic Church. His name is not Pentecostal Church. His name is not Bible College. His name is not whoever you want to name of that call themselves a Christian but you have a low opinion of them. That's not his name. His name is Jesus. And he loves all here. He died so that we can live. He died so that we might have eternal life. But our lot is to place our trust in him or any other alternative. We all die having placed our trust somewhere. Trusting your own goodness is a fool's errand. It won't achieve what you need it to achieve. Rod knew this and he lived his life accordingly. We will all have a reckoning and it can't be avoided. Do you have courage? Do you have courage? Then ask this question of yourself. Will I have an advocate to stand and speak for me on that day? My friend Rodney does. You can have an advocate that speaks for you. Not for anything you've done. Not for anything you didn't do. Not for the good, neither for the bad. For you, without regard to any other factor. We're putting your trust in him. And my friend Rodney would want you to know that. And consider it. Weigh your life. Be honest with yourself, and as he did. Decide on the best future for yourself that one can have. And in this life, you'll find you have a companion who never leave you, nor he forsake you. He'll lead you through the valley of the shadow of death sometimes, but He will bring you to still waters. And if your life is troubled and those still waters you don't find in this life, rest assured He made sure that there are still waters waiting for us in the next. He will change your life forever. We love you, Rodney. The rat bag. You're not supposed to be gone. But you are, and we will see you again. Don's going to sing a song that was special to her and Ron. And then we're going to close. This is almost a bit like my mum's service, maybe more. But thank you for being so patient.
Gentle hands and healing, they're inside this heart. Your loving arms, they draw me near, and your smile, it brings me peace. Draw me closer, oh my Lord, draw me closer, Lord, to thee.
Bless your hearts. Well, we're just going to sing to close the memorial service, and there's refreshments and everything outside. Please avail yourself of those things, and thank you. There was a lot to talk about with Rodney, and there's been a lot that's been left out. Thank you for all those that contributed and for your kindness and patience, and thank you for coming today on behalf of the family. It's greatly appreciated. Rod would be embarrassed, and so it should be. Let's stand for the last song, and then we'll just wind up.
to honour Rodney, who's my brother-in-law. I'm Andrew, so my twin brother Des is the one who lives in Ohio. And Ladonna's my little sister, particular days like today. So thank you very much for joining us and honouring Rod and supporting all of Rod's family, whoever you have. On behalf of the family, I'm inviting you to join us in the foyer and the foyer for some refreshments. There's cold water, there's tea, coffee, there's some homemade cookies and biscuits and wraps and all sorts of things. So if you'd like to join us with some light refreshments, please hang around because we might really get a chance to say hello. Thank you. God bless you. Hey, man. That was just no.
Because I think
That was just there. I turned the other one off.
because I'm not too sure, but basically, obviously, you've seen when like up and tuck